I'm going to read a short story from Tales of Adam by Daniel Quinn. I'm going to start with a short, The Sign of Abundance, and then I'll read The Business of a Rabbit. The Sign of Abundance. When the gods set out to make the universe, they said to themselves, "Let us make of it a manifestation of our unending abundance, and a sign to be read by those who shall have eyes to read. Let us lavish care without stint on everything, no less upon the most fragile blade of grass than upon the mightiest of stars, no less upon the gnat that sings for an hour than upon the mountain that stands for a millennium, no less upon a flake of mica than upon a river of gold. Let us make no two leaves the same from one branch to the next, no two branches the same from one tree to the next, no two trees the same from one land to the next, no two lands the same from one world to the next, no two worlds the same from one star to the next. In this way the law of life will be plain to all who have eyes to read. The rabbit that creeps out to feed, the fox that lies in wait, the eagle that circles above, and the man who bends his bow to the sky." And this was how it was done, from first to last. No two things alike in all the mighty universe, no single thing made with less care than any other thing throughout generations of species more numerous than the stars. And those who had eyes to see read the signs and followed the law of life. The Business of a Rabbit. God is life in abundance wherever life is found, but not for all in every season. When the locusts thrive, the birds feast, and the bison and the deer go hungry. Still, that place is as full of life as it was before, and as full of life as it can be. No place where there is life is a desert, except to man. It happened once that Adam was camped in such a place and had spent the day in luckless hunting. When he saw it was time to return back, he said to his son Abel, "Tonight must be our night to go hungry. The God has nothing for us." But just then a young goat crossed their path, and Adam slew it. Lifting it to his shoulder, Adam said, "Come, let's hurry back to camp and make a feast of it with your mother." But as they were crossing a stream near sunset, Abel saw a rabbit at the water's edge and quickly raised his throwing stick. Before he could let fly, however, Adam put a hand over his son's hand and held it fast in the air. "Don't you see it, Father?" Abel cried. "There's a rabbit drinking at the stream." "I see it," Adam replied. "Then why did you stop me? It's run away now. I might have killed it." Adam, who was only now beginning to prepare Abel for the hunter's life, would soon become more experienced as a teacher. But for the moment he was caught flat-footed and could think of no way to answer his son's objection. At last he mumbled a reply that seemed to him far from satisfactory, though it was the best he could do. That rabbit had some business of its own to finish. Abel, as yet just a child, was full of questions about this, asking what business the rabbit might have had to finish, or how his father had known it, leaving Adam feeling foolish and inadequate, because of course he hadn't the slightest idea what business the rabbit might have had to finish. This was just a manner of speaking, but he didn't know how to explain that to Abel. That night in camp, after the goat had been butchered and eaten, Adam saw that his son was still puzzling over the rabbit, so he thought for a while and finally said to him, "Here's a story for you. One day, my son Abel went out hunting by himself, and his path crossed the path of a lion returning to its den. This lion had been out hunting all day long without any luck, and knew that its mate and cubs would be hungry. So it fell upon Adam and killed him, and carried him off to its den. Now, tell me what you think of this story and what I would do if this happened in fact to you." Abel thought for a while and said, "I think you would grieve for me." "You're right," Adam replied. "I would grieve for you, but I wouldn't be angry with the lion for taking what the God had sent for its hunger." Now, here's the second story. One day, Abel went out hunting by himself, and his path crossed the path of a lion returning to its den. This lion was carrying a goat in its jaws, but, seeing Abel, it dropped the goat and fell upon him, saying to itself, "I will have the goat and the boy as well. Now, tell me what you think of this story and what I would do if this happened to you, in fact." Abel thought again and said, "I think no lion would do that." "You're wrong," replied Adam. "A certain kind of lion would do that, and I would track it down and kill it, because it's a lion gone mad, a lion that kills whatever it sees beyond need. It's thinking, if I kill everything I see, then the gods will have no power over me, and will never be able to say, 'Today it's the lion's turn to go hungry. Today it's the lion's turn to starve. Today it's the lion's turn to die. I'll kill everything in the world so that I alone may live. I'll eat the hare that would have been the fox's, and the fox will die. I'll eat the antelope that would have been the wolf's, and the wolf will die. But I will live. I shall decide who eats and who starves, who lives and who dies. In this way I shall live forever and thwart the gods.' And this madness makes the lion into a murderer of all life." Then Adam went on. "The goat and the rabbit we saw today both belong to the life of this place, which is God. Both were living in its hand, as were we. But the rabbit was not ours to kill. The goat was ours. The God sent it to us as a gift. But the rabbit still belonged to the God. It had another hour, or another day, or another year to live in the God's hand. To have killed it would have been to steal what belonged to the God, and that would have been murder." The next day was another luckless day of hunting for Adam and his son. It makes me want to cry.
Mm-hmm.
And near sunset they turned towards their camp empty-handed. But as they crossed the stream, they found the same rabbit waiting at the water's edge. Adam slew it and said to Abel, "You see now that there was no need for us to snatch this rabbit from the hand of the God to save against tomorrow. For the God meant to give it to us anyway, if not the rabbit, some other creature. The God meant the rabbit to live another day, as now, by sending us this rabbit, it means us to live another day. The fire of life burns forever because God gives one to another without stint, each in its own time. So it was that, in those days, the gods were allowed to tend the garden they had sown. Where they sent the fire of life, there it flowed, and where they turned it aside, there it ebbed, as they would have it. And as they had written in the universe as a whole, so they wrote on the earth, that no two things would be made alike in the same generation or from one generation to the next. They wrote this in the very scheme of things, so that every kind and every species grew and changed in their hands, generation after generation, age after age. And the kind called man, or Adam, or Homo, grew and changed no less than the rest under the law of life, so that over tens of thousands of centuries, Homo habilis became Homo erectus, and Homo erectus became Homo sapiens. But all were of the human kind, and all were hunter-gatherers from generation after generation, without exception. And as such were followers of the same law and the same life as the sparrow, and the bear, and the dolphin. And through these hundreds of thousands of generations of them, the gods found no cause to rebuke them for their lives, or give them statutes for their governance, or send them teachers for their enlightenment, or to raise up prophets for their salvation, for they were already following the single law they had written in the universe for all to follow, and so were living in their hands.